upheld by courage, compassion, and resolve. No one deserves to have their dreams stripped away because of their skin color, social status, or background. Elijah's experience teaches a powerful truth. Even the most innocent dreams can be targeted by bias, but they can also become symbols of strength when met with integrity. That day in the airport, it wasn't Elijah's capabilities that were doubted. It was his appearance, his identity that was challenged. Yet what could have ended in defeat became something far greater. Thanks to a father's fierce advocacy, the rule of law, and the unwavering support of those who stood for what was right, Elijah's dignity was not only restored, it was elevated. The message was clear. No one is too powerful to be held accountable, and prejudice has no place in any profession, especially one entrusted with the dreams and safety of others. This story also reminds us that our greatest trials can become our greatest teachers. Elijah could have let the pain break him. Instead, he stood taller. He chose to rise, and in doing so he became a light for others. He is now a beacon for every young person who's ever doubted their place in the world, for every child who's felt dismissed because of how they look or where they come from. His story reminds us that it's not enough to dream. We must protect those dreams fiercely. And it's not just about fighting for ourselves. It's about paving a smoother path so that those who come after us don't have to fight the same battles. For parents, teachers, leaders, and community members, this is a call to action, to challenge injustice wherever it appears, to raise our children to believe in their worth, and to build a world where no one is made to feel small because of someone else's ignorance. True strength is not how loudly we speak, but how boldly we stand for what is right, even when it's uncomfortable. Because when justice is done, it does more than right or wrong. It sparks change. It opens doors for those who've long been left behind. And in the end, that is what truly matters, the legacy we leave behind. A legacy of fairness, of dignity, and of hope. For every dreamer bold enough to chase the sky, bathe the runway in warmth. Elijah paused, watching a jet lift into the sky with effortless grace. He smiled, a true, hopeful smile. One day, he thought, that'll be me up there, soaring, free, unshaken by doubt or prejudice. Because today he hadn't just defended his dream, he had proven that the sky holds no limits. Elijah Jackson's story didn't end with that powerful moment in the pilot's lounge. It was just the beginning. His experience became a defining symbol across the nation. Sparked by the injustice he endured and his father's unwavering defense, the FAA took significant measures to ensure such incidents would never repeat. Elijah was soon invited to schools, youth aviation programs, and national conferences. He stood before crowds of aspiring pilots, engineers, and dreamers, young people who saw their own struggles reflected in his journey. No longer plagued by doubt or fear, Elijah spoke with confidence. He shared the pain of being profiled, the fear of losing his dream, and the loneliness of standing accused. But more importantly, he told the story of resilience, of how truth, courage, and integrity can rise above injustice. His words became a rallying cry. To every young person who had ever been made to feel less than because of how they looked or where they came from, Elijah said, "No one has the right to tell you where you don't belong. Diversity is strength. Your dreams matter, and they deserve protection." And every time he ended a speech, he left his audience with the same message. Aviation, like every field, needs voices like yours. The sky is open for anyone brave enough to fly toward it. His story brought crowds to tears, sparked new conversations, inspired action, and it didn't just change lives. It began to change the system. As for Captain Rebecca Whitman, the reckoning came swiftly. The FAA's investigation revealed a disturbing pattern of misconduct. What happened with Elijah wasn't an isolated event. It was the latest in a series of racially biased decisions. She was immediately suspended, stripped of her credentials, and banned from operating in the aviation industry again. Her fall from grace was severe, but necessary. In an industry where safety and professionalism are non-negotiable, there is no place for prejudice or abuse of authority. This landmark decision sent a loud and clear message. No one is above accountability. No one gets to use their power to harm others. And no one, no matter their title, can escape justice when integrity stands its ground. David Jackson ensured this wasn't just a win for his son, but a turning point for the entire aviation community. In the wake of Elijah's experience, the aviation industry began a long overdue reckoning. Airlines across the country revisited their diversity training programs, security procedures, and hiring policies, determined to root out bias at every level. Elijah's painful ordeal had become a catalyst for transformative change. It was no longer just a personal incident, it was a turning point. Industry leaders realized that prejudice wasn't just unjust, it was a threat, a liability, and as awareness grew, so too did the standards that shaped aviation. New safeguards were implemented to ensure that no future pilot, engineer, or aviation enthusiast would face the kind of discrimination Elijah had endured. For Elijah, the memory of that day never faded. But over time, it became more than a scar. It became a mission. Every milestone he achieved from that moment on, every hour logged in the flight simulator, every test passed, every challenge overcome, was no longer just for him. It was for every child who had ever feared being shut out because of who they were. With the support of his father, the FAA, and allies across the industry, Elijah rose as a national voice for change. He became a youth ambassador for diversity and inclusion in aviation. His story was featured across major media outlets, and he was invited to speak at aviation summits, leadership forums, and schools across the country. Scholarships were soon created in his name, aimed at helping underprivileged students break into the world of aviation. Elijah never stopped pushing forward, not only toward his own dreams, but toward a future where others could chase theirs freely. One afternoon, standing on the same tarmac where his journey had taken that painful turn, Elijah watched a Boeing 787 soar into the vast open sky. He felt peace, not just because he was healing, but because that place of humiliation had become a launch pad for something extraordinary. He knew his journey was only beginning. But more importantly, he understood that his fight had opened doors not just for himself, but for an entire generation of dreamers. Watching from nearby, David Jackson smiled. His battle for justice had not only restored his son's future, it had helped reshape an entire industry. Through Elijah Jackson's story, we witnessed the deep scars prejudice can leave. But more importantly, we saw the transformative power of justice when, breath, waiting for her to recover. But she had no words. Her lips moved, searching for something, anything, to justify her actions. There was nothing. No defense, no excuse. Sweat beaded on her brow as the weight of her failure became undeniable. Then came David Jackson. Tall, composed, impossible to ignore. He stepped forward, eyes sharp, voice unwavering. Your prejudice led you to accuse a bright young black student, not because he was a threat, but because of your own bias. That's unacceptable. The lounge stirred. Pilots and staff who had earlier stayed silent shifted uncomfortably. Some offered apologetic glances. Others couldn't even look Marcus or David in the eye. David faced the guards. You two. Did you verify his ID? Did you check with the program coordinator? Or did you blindly follow orders, One officer stammered, We were going to verify, sir. But she told us to remove him immediately. Exactly what I thought. David's voice turned sharp. From now on, any interference with my son's place in this program answers directly to me and the FAA. He turned to Marcus, now beside Thomas. His voice softened again. You did nothing wrong, son. You stood tall when they tried to break you. I'm proud of you. Marcus, eyes watery, heart steady, nodded. Thanks, Dad, he whispered. I knew you'd come. David turned one last time, eyes locking on Malene. You'll be hearing from the FAAs. You'll be hearing from the disciplinary board very soon, David Jackson said coldly. I suggest you prepare a defense, if you have one. With that, he placed a reassuring hand on Elijah's back and guided him out of the lounge. The crowd parted in silence, respect now filling the space where suspicion had once lived. For the first time that day, Elijah walked tall, his father's unwavering support and the truth lifting the weight that had pressed on his shoulders all morning. David's voice echoed behind them, one last declaration before they left the room. We will not tolerate discrimination or abuse of power in the aviation industry. Our mission is clear, to protect the dignity and safety of every individual, no matter their background, race, or appearance. What occurred here today is a blatant violation of everything this industry should stand for. His words landed like a final gavel strike, undeniable, powerful, absolute. Everyone in the room felt it. Even the security guards, once blindly obedient, now stood rigid with shame, realizing the gravity of what they'd participated in. David turned back to Elijah, his tone gentle again. Son, you've been through more today than anyone should, especially on a day meant to honor your hard work and your dreams. But you stood your ground. That's the heart of a true aviator, courage under pressure. Elijah's heart swelled, tears forming in his eyes, not from fear this time, but from pride. He smiled for the first time all day, bolstered by the strength in his father's words. Thank you, Dad. I'll never forget this. David nodded, then turned back to the room, sweeping his gaze across the stunned faces. Let this be a lesson. Prejudice blinds, and in aviation, blindness is dangerous. Never again will anyone, especially a child, be shamed like this in my presence. Horizon Airlines will receive a full report from the FAA, he added. There will be accountability. Silence reigned. Captain Whitman's shoulders sagged beneath the weight of what she'd done. She understood now. Her 2-decade career hadn't unraveled because of a single moment, but because her long-standing prejudice had finally been brought into the light. David placed his hand gently on Elijah's back once more. Let's go, son. You've earned your place here, more than anyone. As they walked away, heads bowed in respect, Elijah walked with a new sense of pride, the heavy fog of injustice finally lifting. Justice hadn't just been served, it had been witnessed. And for every kid who ever dared to dream, this moment meant everything. With tears still brimming, Elijah whispered, Thank you, Dad. I promise I'll always remember. David smiled softly, the stern lines of his face easing as he looked at the young man beside him. Come on, son. Let's go home. There's nothing left to prove. You've already won. Father and son walked side by side out of the pilot's lounge, a place that had once felt cold and cruel, but now stood as a silent testament to truth and strength. The onlookers remained motionless, some ashamed, others contemplative, but none could deny what they'd seen, the unshakable power of integrity. In their hearts, they knew this story wouldn't fade. It had become something far greater, a reminder of what it means to fight for what's right. As they passed through the terminal, Elijah lifted his chin, shoulders squared. For the first time in hours, he felt the freedom of hope. His dreams had survived. His passion for aviation was intact. Most importantly, he had his father, his protector, his guide, beside him every step of the way. Through the terminal windows, the golden light of the setting sun, my son called me. Someone explain why a program participant is being treated like a criminal. Maline's grin faded. Color drained from her face. Thomas's sharp gaze swept the room. If you think this ends here, you're mistaken. This will go public. For the first time, Marcus felt a spark of hope. His father had arrived. Marcus's voice broke as he turned toward him. Dad, they said I was a spy, that you and Mom were janitors. They think I snuck in to steal secrets. I don't know what to do. Silence. Then Thomas spoke, low and firm, with fury simmering beneath his words. Stay put, son. I'm in the terminal. I'll be there in 5. No one hurts my family. Marcus nearly collapsed with relief. For the first time in what felt like forever, hope burned again. But Captain Maline Brooks wasn't finished. She stepped forward, voice raised so the entire room could hear. Oh, calling Daddy again? She mocked, smirking. I wonder how long he's been mopping floors here. Probably hard to answer while pushing a broom. Laughter erupted from the staff nearby, sharp, cruel, and merciless. It hit Marcus like a brick to the chest. His fists curled, nails digging into his palms, his lip trembling from the restraint it took not to cry. Still, he said nothing. He believed in one thing. His father would fix this. Maline folded her arms like a queen on a throne, relishing every second. Security? Get him out of here. I don't care who's on the way. He's a risk. He might have already planted something. The security guard hesitated, eyes flicking from Maline to Marcus. He reached forward. Slam! The glass door burst open with a force that silenced the room. Thomas Reynolds strode in like a thunderstorm in a tailored suit. Step away from my son, he commanded, his voice cutting like a blade. Gas rippled through the lounge as all eyes turned to the imposing figure standing in the doorway. Thomas's gaze locked onto Maline. Do you even realize who you just tried to humiliate? He asked, his voice low and lethal. I'm Thomas Reynolds, owner of Reynolds Aviation, FAA board member, and the man who helped build this airport's current career track system. Maline's complexion drained of color. Thomas stepped forward, each word colder than the last. You just publicly accused my son of espionage. You insulted my family. Do you understand the legal and ethical firestorm you've just ignited? Maline opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. If this doesn't end now, Thomas warned, I'll bury this airline and every name attached to your mistake. For the first time, Marcus exhaled. His father's presence had transformed the room. For once he felt protected. Thomas advanced with purpose, eyes locked on Maline. Which one of you, he began again, voice steady with fury, accused my son of being a spy? Recognition dawned in Maline's eyes. She stood stiffly and stammered, Sir, I was just following protocol. He was in a restricted area with no visible clearance. Clearance? Thomas cut in, pulling a sleek folder from inside his coat. He tossed it onto the table where it landed with a loud thud. Is this the clearance you're referring to? The FAA seal shimmered gold on the front. Inside, signed documentation, full clearance, and program credentials. My son, Marcus Reynolds, is part of the Horizon Aviation Elite Youth Program, which I co-founded, and you just violated every principle of that program and the FAA's own ethics code. A shocked murmur filled the room. Thomas's voice dropped, low and dangerous. You racially profiled my son. You belittled his future. And worse, you did it because of the color of his skin. Maline instinctively stepped back. "I'll be filing a formal complaint with the FAA Ethics Committee," Thomas continued. "Expect a full investigation." He turned to the officers. "You two, stand down. If either of you so much as touches my son again, you'll lose those badges today." The guards dropped their hands immediately, their faces pale with shame. Then Thomas looked at Marcus, and his voice softened. "I'm here, son. You're safe now." Marcus couldn't hold back. Tears ran freely as he rushed into his father's arms. "I was so scared, Dad," he choked out. "I know," Thomas whispered, wrapping him tight. "But no one gets to treat you like this. Ever." A thick, stunned silence blanketed the room. For the first time, everyone truly understood what they'd just witnessed. No one could meet Thomas's eyes. Thomas turned, addressing the crowd. "Let this moment be a reminder," he said, voice calm but powerful. "The next time you judge someone based on how they look, you might be seconds away from destroying their future." With a protective arm around Marcus, Thomas walked him out of the break room. Malene and the others remained frozen. Shames etched across their faces. For the first time in hours, Marcus felt seen, safe, and for once, truly proud of who he was. As they exited, all that remained was the silence, and the crumbling remnants of Captain Brooks' false confidence. The room held its collective. That was it. Marcus's eyes lit with fury. But before he could answer, dragged like a criminal for a crime he didn't commit, Marcus Reynolds is humiliated and isolated, until a powerful voice shatters the silence and flips the entire narrative. The taller officer gripped Marcus's arm with force. "Let's go, kid. We'll sort this out elsewhere." Marcus's heart pounded like a war drum as they pulled him toward the exit, each step feeling like another crack in his dream. The taller man moved in close, gaze sharp as steel, while the second officer kept pace beside him, blocking any chance to slip away. Captain Malene Brooks pointed at Marcus like he was a threat, her voice thick with contempt. "That's him. Remove him and perform a full search." This wasn't a mistake. He knew exactly what he was doing. The older officer, silver strands in his hair and a weathered scowl on his face, gave Marcus a long, hard look. "Young man," he said firmly, "you need to come with us. We need to confirm who you are and what exactly is going on." Marcus instinctively stepped back, fear swelling in his chest. His voice wavered despite his best effort. "Please, sir, I was brought here as part of the Reynolds Aviation Career Program. Miss Vanessa Reynolds from HR. She's the one who invited me. Just call her, please." Before he could continue, Malene cut him off, her tone slicing through the air like a blade. "I've heard enough. He's in a restricted zone using fake credentials. I won't gamble with flight security over some teenager's lies." Marcus's legs felt like jelly, the room spinning as panic set in. A cold sweat trickled down his brow. No one stepped forward. No one dared to challenge the commanding officer. With trembling hands, Marcus pulled out his phone. "Please, let me call my dad. He can clear this up." Malene folded her arms, her smirk widening. "Sure. I bet he's scrubbing toilets nearby. Call him. When this is over, neither of you will be welcome here again." The silence wrapped around him like a noose. No one intervened. Marcus's hands shook as he tapped his screen. The ringtone rang out, each note a cruel reminder of how alone he was. As he waited, his mind returned to brighter days, his 6th birthday at Pine Haven, standing beneath a towering jet beside his father, Thomas Reynolds. That memory gave him just enough strength to remain upright. He pressed back against the cold wall as the taller officer loomed over him. "If you don't cooperate, we'll treat it as resisting," he warned, voice like stone. Marcus could barely breathe, the pounding in his ears drowning out the growing buzz around him. From the corner of his eye, He noticed staff whispering, phones lifted, recording like it was entertainment instead of a child's collapse. Captain Malene Brooks stood tall, eyes shining with malicious satisfaction. "You see," she sneered, "that's how they operate. Quiet, innocent-looking, until it's too late. If we hadn't caught him now, who knows what he'd have done?" Her words hit harder than a slap. Marcus's voice caught in his throat. Any attempt at defense felt pointless against her venom. He clutched his badge, silently begging for someone to speak up. But no one did. Vanessa Reynolds was nowhere in sight. Desperate, he tried again. "Please, my dad is Thomas Reynolds. He works for Reynolds Aviation. He'll explain everything." Malene scoffed loudly. "Your dad? What's he going to do? Clean faster so you can sneak out?" Her laugh rang out, sharp and heartless. "Call him. Let's see how far that gets you." Marcus struggled to unlock his phone. Every second crawled by. He dialed. The ringtone pierced the air. 1 ring. 2. 3. With each unanswered tone, hopelessness crept in. But then, another memory. His father lifting him into a cockpit, voice steady. "You belong here, son. Never forget that." It was enough. "Barely. I'm not a criminal," Marcus whispered to no one in particular. But it was the only truth he had left. Malene crossed her arms, mocking smile in place. "Had to call Daddy, huh? Typical. Should have known your place the moment you walked in." Her words sliced deep. Marcus's throat tightened, but he clung to his father's voice. "Stay calm, son. I'm on my way." The taller officer eyed him with suspicion. "Tears won't change anything, kid. People lose jobs over this, or worse." Marcus's vision blurred. Still, he refused to cry. Every eye in the room was on him, waiting to watch him crumble. He wouldn't. He couldn't. He clenched his fists so tight his knuckles blanched. But he stayed standing. A voice buzzed over the radio. "Unit 7, status suspect detained in pilot's lounge," came the officer's reply. "Possible breach. Awaiting further orders." Malene grinned, smug and cold. "There it is. Official now. Let's see if Daddy can fix that with a phone call." But then, hurried footsteps. Heads turned. A tall black man in a flawless suit strode into the lounge, presence commanding. Thomas Reynolds. The room went silent. His voice was calm, but his authority filled every corner. A young aviation hopeful is wrongfully accused of trespassing at a prestigious airport lounge. What begins as a dream turns into a nightmare, fueled by prejudice and power. The 2 security officers burst into the Pine Haven International Airport's pilot lounge, their boots echoing sharply against the sleek floors. Both men wore deep gray uniforms, badges gleaming beneath the bright fluorescent lights. Captain Malene Brooks jabbed a finger toward Marcus Reynolds, her tone icy and loud enough to silence the room. "That's him. Detain him now. He's in a restricted zone with forged credentials." Marcus's throat tightened, legs unsteady as the taller officer stepped forward. "Step aside and hand over that badge," the man said firmly, casting a quick glance at Malene before locking his stern gaze on Marcus. "Now, I haven't done anything wrong, sir," Marcus replied, his voice trembling. "I'm part of Reynolds Aviation's career program. Miss Vanessa Reynolds from HR brought me here. Please, just call her. She can explain." The officers exchanged a glance but didn't check his story. Instead, the second officer grabbed his radio. "Possible intruder. Suspected forged ID. Awaiting orders." A few pilots gathered at the entrance, whispering quietly. Some folded their arms, others shook their heads. Marcus felt their stares pierce through him. He had always dreamed of this moment, standing among pilots. But not like this. Not as a suspect because of his skin. Malene smirked as Marcus shrank under the weight of suspicion. "This is what they do," she sneered. "Act confused, pretend they belong, while collecting secrets. Industrial espionage, clear as day. The murmurs grew, feeding off her accusation. Marcus's fists clenched, the sting anchoring him as he fought back tears. "Please," he said, barely above a whisper, "let me call my dad. He can clear everything." Malene let out a low, mocking laugh. "Your dad? Let me guess. He's a janitor here? Probably the one who let you in."